Welcome to Journey Through the Gate, your Paranormal Portal podcast, as we delve into the many questions and wonders brought on by the supernatural experience. What's on the other side of the gate? Let's find out together.
What is up, gatekeepers? I got to first tell you that I'm going to start this whole podcast tonight with love and light. And I want to thank each and every one of you for all your well wishes, your continued well wishes in the comments, and both personally and in my DMs and on, the social media and the whole, the inner tubes, whatever you want to call them. Thank you so, so much. I will tell you this right now. Prayer works. Love light works. Healing energy works. And it helps to heal everybody around you. So please don't ever put those lights out. Please send that to each other right now. And during, whatever you might be going through, I just want to send that love light out to you, because each and every one of you are light grounders, light workers, and gatekeepers. So all my gatekeepers out there, guide any new people in the chat. We have an absolutely wonderful show for you tonight. And because of my co-host, Mr. Donny Cho, I can't tell you how wonderful it is to have good friends that you can count on, that I didn't even ask. He offered to do research on our next guest a little further than I knew, because I'll tell you, tonight's guest, I heard probably 3 to 7 words come out of his mouth, read his energy, and said, I want that man on my podcast. And I probably want him on multiple times. I think we're going to have a new best friend tonight, guys. So before we get further ado, again, I wanted to say thank you to everybody who helped with super chats and the PayPal and doing all the stuff. Every single dime of that over this past week that you have sent went to Mr. Dickens, his medication and his food, and he is showing progress, and he has hope in his eyes, and he is feeling the love. So keep it coming, the love. He has everything he needs at this point in time, thanks to you. And thank you so much. What a way to spread love and light. Thank you, guys. So without further ado, we are going on a ride tonight. You are going to love this guest. So let me bring in Donny Cho to do the introductions. My friend, Donny Cho.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, darling.
Yes. I'm real excited about. I'm excited about tonight.
I know. I'm bouncing like a tiger.
It's a rare privilege. I mean, we've all read books. We've all gotten into a book, and it was a real page turner for us, and we just got buried in it. And to get the opportunity to talk to the person who wrote the book right after finishing reading it it's a rare privilege. And I'm lucky enough to have had it. Now this is going to be my second time. The first time was with you.
Aww.
And this week, I read 2 of his books. Our guest's name is John Russel. A Knock in the Attic, that's his second book. Okay. The first one is Riding with Ghosts, Angels, and the Spirits of the Dead. And
Amen. There he is in all his glory.
Yep. John Russel has been a professional psychic, medium, remote viewer for 50 years, giving readings since he was about 18 years old to people. I mean, when he was 18, people were coming from far and wide to get readings from him. Mm-hmm. He's a paranormal investigator, author, artist, photographer, ordained minister.
Wow.
And he's had a lot of different hats all throughout his life. He's been involved in television, radio. Yeah. And I feel like he's in good company, because when I was getting to know him through his writings, I felt like, he's real kindred spirits with people like that I've come to know, like you and Steve, and people who kind of live into paranormal and have very full, rich lives and have had multiple experiences and have had, you know, multiple lessons that the other side gave them, because I think that was one of his main things about both of your books and his books were about the lessons you receive when you interact with the paranormal and the other side. So I feel like, you know, he's in a very, very good company tonight. And I'm very excited to talk to him because I got so many questions about some of the stories in his books.
I'm excited. Let's bring him in. Ladies and gentlemen, gatekeepers abound. Mr. John Russel. Welcome in.
God bless you, Cisco. God bless you, Donnie. Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with you guys. I'm just so thrilled to be here, and I'm so excited to talk with y'all. It's going to be a great time tonight, and I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Our
thank you
absolute
for
pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for coming on.
When I hear certain, like I was saying earlier, because we talked for a few minutes before the show, and welcome everybody again. We have a guest. I'm counting on all our gatekeepers and our mods to welcome all newcomers in and make people feel welcome and make them feel to home, as they say in Tennessee. So we're just going to visit tonight, and if you'd hold your questions, mods, if you ask everybody, just go ahead and put a big Q, or if I can't see it, you know, make it big or whatever. But I'm going to sit back and I'm going to listen to John here, if it's okay if I call you John.
Absolutely.
And that's what you call respect, youngins. You know what I'm saying? And we need to get some of that self-respect and respecting others back into the world. So that's why you see it here. And Donnie is doing all the wonders this week because he read both books this week, and he's been telling me all about it. And every time he get a little, I go, shh, save it for the show. So I'm going to try to shut my big old mouth and let Donnie speak a lot tonight. But I'm going to tell you right now, this is the only time, it's not the only time you're going to see Mr. Russell on this show, because I have a feeling he is going to be part of this family and be a frequent guest here. And that's my hope. And I hope you get some of something tonight you can put into your life. And that's the main thing, I think, isn't it, John? Is taking, you know, what the dead are trying to tell us is basically live your life, you know, be kind to one another, spread love and spread light. It's like old Grandpa Walton said, life is hard work and love. And if you get a chance to smile along the way, you're a lucky fool.
Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
So there you go, Donnie. The floor is yours, sir.
So,
all right.
Okay, so you got two books. The first one was Riding with Ghosts, Angels, and Spirits of the Dead, which is actually more about your recent life since you moved to Florida. And was it 2013 you moved to Florida from New York?
2000. Let's see, 2000. Oh gosh, now you got. now you're gonna make me think. We've been here. Let's see, going on 20 years.
Yeah.
So we've been here a little while, and I originally I was born in well, not born in West Texas, but grew up in West Texas. My wife been born there, and spent most of my adult life there. And then my wife's from New York, so I moved there to be with her. We were there 6.5 years together. And then got tired of the back-to-back blizzards and decided we'd come to Florida and had back-to-back hurricanes. So I don't know if we did any better.
And and so I guess your first book is about your life in Florida after you moved, and one of your main passions, which is apparent right away. I mean, even from the dedication, I think you're the first author I've ever seen put it in his dedication to his beloved Melissa, his Honda, his motorcycle.
I was going to say it had to be the motorcycle.
So even from the dedication, I'm like, oh, this guy loves motorcycles.
Let me ask you a question: is that from Sweet Melissa?
That's well, it is, and but it's not solely that. It's when I met her sitting on the showroom floor, she told me her name was Melissa, and I said, okay, there you go,
Sweet Melissa. I've been
Melissa.
hearing it for 3 days, so I was wondering where it was going to go. I've been
a biker since I was 15, and on Melissa, I've got almost 114,000 miles. So serious biker just on this bike alone. and love to ride, love the lifestyle, love everything about it, and had to dedicate that first book to Melissa, because without her, there wouldn't have been any riding.
That book would not have been possible. The whole book was spent on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were basically spent the whole book on Melissa.
Melissa,
around
yeah,
her.
with a few flashbacks to San Angelo, a few flashbacks to my hometown.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically the whole book was her, and the incredible adventures we had. And it was interesting how that book came about. I had shot a TV pilot for the History Channel, which unfortunately didn't air. And I became friends with my producer, and we remained friends. And he and I worked together, brainstormed some things that, okay, let's see if we can get a different show out there, since this one didn't go. And my concept was, I went to him and I said, hey, look, let's do something like Then Came Bronson Meets the Paranormal. And for those who don't know, Then Came Bronson was a very short-lived TV show, ran maybe 2 years, I think it was on. And this guy was named Bronson, and he was like a banker, corporate type, whatever. And a buddy of his committed suicide, and that rattled him to the core and set him on a search to, what is life all about? And, what does all this mean? And so he quit his job, got his motorcycle, and he took off, just, whichever way the wind blows, searching for himself. And he was always a catalyst for change. He wasn't changed by the circumstances or the people he rode into. He changed them. And
kind of like Cain. Huh? I'm listening to you. It's almost like, do you remember Cain? Who walked the earth? Oh gosh, the name escapes me. John Carney.
Kung Fu.
Carney. Yeah, Kung Fu. There you go. And same concept. Wherever he went, he changed. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
And so I asked my producer, I said, let's shoot it from that angle if we can. Let's go for, Then Came Bronson Meets the Paranormal. And what I'll do is I'll ride my motorcycle into town. We'll find some place that wants a paranormal investigation or some type of spiritual or psychic help or whatever. Bring that to whatever resolution we can, then ride to the next town. And so we were shopping that idea around. And he said, why don't you write up a short blog with just a few short examples of some of the paranormal experiences you've had? Because I've had way over 1,000 paranormal experiences that have manifested on the physical realm. And he said, if you write up this short little blog, we can use that as a tool when we approach producers and say, well, if you want to know more about John, the types of experiences he has, go here. And so I started writing up some things, and it was really interesting because even though I've ridden since I was about 15 years old, on this motorcycle, I began to have these really over the top, as you know, Donnie, from reading the book, bizarre, incredible paranormal experiences, even for myself. And I began to include a few of those, and it dawned on me, I was like, this is a legacy book to leave behind. I've got to get these experiences, expand them into the full experience of what happened, what it taught me, what I learned, what I can communicate to others, how it might help them, and then put this in a book and leave it behind. So that's how that book came about.
And, if you don't mind me saying, you've got some pretty bonkers stories. There were, I'm not even sure if I want to tell all of them or mention all of them, because I feel like the people in the chat and the audience listening at home really should pick these books up, because there are some wild stories in there.
Let me tell you.
And not to interrupt you guys, but go ahead, mods. I sent some of the mods out for links to John's YouTube channel and his webpage, and a couple places to get the books. As always, we try to tell people, don't get them from Amazon, get them from a local bookstore, or something like that. But you have your own website as well, too, right?
Oh, Be Kind says, okay, I'm buying the books right now.
Yep.
There's a lot of mom and pop sites, independent stores on the web.
There you go.
There's a lot of
they will too.
Pop stores, independent stores on the web that carry them, and you can get them at Barnes and Noble, Books A Million, Aid Books, all over the place. So they're available everywhere.
Right, and please go in also, mods, and drop his YouTube channel that I sent you guys, because you get in there and get subscribed, because he drops these great little videos with just thoughts, and I love the one about the run and, being the light and hanging in there. And I think we all need more of that,
I think so. Yeah.
I
There's
think
there's
so
not
too.
enough of that in the
Right.
spiritual and paranormal community, because the spiritual paranormal community has become a cottage industry of people reciting the same tired things and going from conference to conference, making their money and doing all this and the other without really getting anything out there that changes people's lives and helps people's lives.
Oh,
and
so
that's
true.
always been my mission and my passion, is to say,
So
hey,
true.
it has to be real. It has to work on the physical realm, and it has to make some type of positive difference in your life. And if it doesn't do that, then we're just yapping. That's all.
That's so true. And that's the whole reason for this podcast. It's because, like, the shows that came up and they started with, the skulls bleeding, and every time, board creaks, it's a demon, and it's this, and it's because blood cells and fear cells. And what we're trying to do is put the light back into paranormal and go, and listen, folks, the dead aren't coming back here, or I call them visitation spirits.
Right.
Personally. And I also call, ghosts or earthbounds, two different things. Because once you cross over and do whatever you do over there, it's different. It's different.
Yeah.
And if they get a chance to come back here and communicate, no matter what it was, it's self-forgiveness, it's love. I'm sorry, I've always loved you. People like to say unfinished business, and that's so cold, because it's not, and I've seen people suffer 20, 30, 40 years worrying about one thing. And if they get a chance to come back, it's like, that's nothing. Don't worry about it. I'm here. I'm okay. You're going to be okay. And I love you. And love lasts forever. It's eternal. That's our message.
And what people have to understand about these paranormal shows on TV, they are not, they have nothing to do with the reality of interacting with the paranormal. There's a lot of them are staged. And I can say this because I have known the on-air talent in some of these shows. I have known the producers in some of these shows, or the new people in behind the scenes that were in the production crew. And they've all said that, look, some of the on-air talent has told me that the producers would go, can you work up a cry here? Or can you scream and run out of the room? Or all this type of stuff. And there's a lot of horror stories behind the scenes about some of the dishonest things these people have done. So people that are watching these shows on TV, they're not getting a clue as to what it actually is like to interact with the paranormal. And if you notice, all of these shows are like, they have a demonologist, or they're obsessed with demons, or everything's a demon, or a demon's going to get you, or blah, blah, blah. Listen, I've been doing paranormal investigation since I was 11 years old. I've been doing psychic readings since I was 18. I'm 68 now, so I've been around the block a few times, okay? And I have never, ever, one time, been threatened, kicked, punched, scratched, bitten. I've never been told, get out. I've never been, it hasn't happened in all of these years of experience. And so what people don't understand is a lot of this stuff on TV, they're doing as scare tactics to scare you and get you to sit and tune into what happens next week and sell a bunch of advertising in the process. So that's what you have to understand about these shows. They're not real. It's not the reality of how you interact with the paranormal. And one thing that really is a huge pet peeve of mine about these shows is when people go in and start cursing at the spirits.
Oh, provoking.
Disrespecting the spirits.
I told you were part of the family, man. Everything you're saying, like, we preach on the show all the time, don't we, Donnie?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, would you go to Mike Tyson's house and bang on Mike Tyson's front door and say, Mike Tyson, you effing this, effing that, come out here, you effing, I challenge you, show yourself. You'd be picking your teeth up off the ground. So if you wouldn't do that to somebody in the flesh, why do you do it to somebody in the spirit? Because they are, whether they're the soul, the spirit of a person that's deceased, whether they're a guardian angel, whether they're a nature spirit, whether they're some other kind of intelligence, they have intelligence, they have will, they have power, they have volition. So why would you go and insult them and then 100%. Hope to communicate with them? And then secondly, you go and you challenge the ghost, they do something, and you scream like a little girl and run. What are you doing? That's what you're there for. So it's like, all of this stuff is just sheer idiotic nonsense.
So true, Lucky Smith. Absolutely. And that's why we started off of this.
Oh, Cisco, do you have an echo, I think?
Do I? Let me check my echo stuff. But when we started this off,
I don't hear it now.
check. Well, that's because I just shut up. You know I can't do this. I'm a 6-year-old broad, doesn't know tech from. I need a 13-year-old to come in here and fix this for me. Or an 8-year-old maybe. But everything you're saying, we agree with 100%. Now, Donnie, just to give us a little background, I've been doing this. My first, I think I was 3 or 4, first ghost I saw. It was a Revolutionary War soldier who was came across angry, sometimes agitated, which I totally understand. Everybody else was scared of him. We weren't allowed to talk about it. Daddy was an alcoholic, World War II vet, came by it honest. But still, you didn't talk about this nonsense. In a house full of teenage girls.
Oh, Lord.
I mean, full of them. 7. And one boy. My brother still jerks a little bit every once in a while.
I hear you.
Yeah, but I always got, as in my memory, was fear and sadness. And then I discovered down the line that, once we pieced all the pieces together and could finally talk about it 25 years later, I think he just wanted attention, and he wanted to get attention. And I think he died in a secret room beyond the stair. Like you get those servant stairways in those old, this 200-year-old farmhouse in Jackson, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So when they busted out a fake wall to put in the pantry, they found some letters and some other things and some stuff like somebody had been in there a while. And I think they probably hid him from the enemy or something along those lines. And he was forgotten. And I still haven't forgotten him. And I've been trying to rescue them ever since, because I'm one of those people. I don't care about the evidence or anything else. I'm going in. If they want to communicate, we're crossing, you're figuring out what the problem is. Let's talk. It's therapy.
Right.
Right. And
I think a lot of spirits may come back and they're okay on the other side, but they want to tell their story.
Yes. True.
And then I think I had this absolute revelation that just blew my mind. And I talk about it on my YouTube channel. It just absolutely just fried my mind to get this revelation, this insight from the spirit realm. And what came to me was, what if some hauntings are just nostalgia? What if this guy died and he loved his farm and he worked his farm and he loved the earth and he loved the old farmhouse and he loved the animals? Now he's been on the other side for a while and he's growing, he's advancing, he's moving on, he's doing whatever he's doing. But he's sitting there on the other side and he says, wonder what's going on at the old farm. I wonder if they did a farm. Wonder if the animals are still there. I think I'll go back and look. And he goes back and he looks, and the veil's real thin for whatever reason that day. And somebody sees him. Oh my God, a ghost.
Right.
And they see him coming back, and now, why is he there? Why is this ghost there? Well, maybe he was just nostalgic for his old home. He wanted to go back and look and see what was going on. So
it's so true, John.
It would be nothing more than nostalgia. And
true.
that's all it is. And we're trying to assign these deep meanings and do all these things and send the spirits to the other side that are all there. And I'm just coming back to see the old house. And
well, that's the first
you
thing.
Saw me,
That's the first thing you do is find out, like, do you need help? It's free will. It's free will. I mean, we were talking earlier about the bar. I mean, I had a young man. He died after a wedding reception. Everybody went back to the bar. He lived close. He said, I got it. I got him walking home, went out, passed out, got killed by a train. So he goes right back to that bar. Now, the thing is he was earthbound. He was stuck in his own, thing, but he was aware of things going around and he liked it, And I had to sit down and tell him, I said, look, honey, they brought me in here to talk to you. And, it's your free will. You get to do whatever you want, Said when you're ready to cross, just remember to look up, because a lot of them are always head down and shuffling, I said, look up, because it's your light you're connected to, your source. You can't even break it yourself. It's just you forget it's there. And I said, because I'm going to tell you this, time like that is different for you guys. And I said, you might blink twice and think it's going to stay a bar, and then it's a parking lot, 50 years from now. And how long do you think it's going to come, somebody else to come back and talk to you like this? But you have the free will. I want to leave you this information. And, and that was it. I had to go because not everybody's ready to cross. And then, like you said, the visitation, that's 100%.
Yeah.
And I believe it's also too when they're mentioned, they come back. We have a place we're going to introduce you to down the line called Hoover House, and it is a beacon of light in Waynesboro, Pennsylvania. And this whole house has gathered people, the spirits there, the spirit guides and the spirits that are visitation spirits,
right,
have guided all these people there. And everybody there has this wonderful light about them, and they talk like you and I do, and Donnie does, and the people in this chat. And it's all about bringing people there that need to hear that message from someone. And the
right,
spirits will get all excited because they know there's, the other spirits are coming through. They know that person's coming. So they show up 2-3 days before, and well, we're just waiting here for such and such, the phone will ring and a reservation will come because it's a bed and breakfast. And it's a wonderful place. That's one example to what you just said. And then there's multiple other ones, like when you have a museum and you're talking about them and they come in, and the spirits do that too. And that's absolutely possible visitation.
Oh,
but
sure.
those ones that are earthbound that are stuck, something I say here on the thing all the time is ghosts aren't pets.
Right.
Ghosts aren't pets.
Exactly.
And they are people. And if that was your loved one or yourself or, your actual furry friends or something like that, who never really have a big problem, I don't think, about crossing. They seem to come and go as they please a lot quicker than we do. They don't have all that earthly burden on them. It's just love, pure love. And that's the connection, So I agree with everything you said. I'm sure I'm going to agree with everything that you said, because it was just that, like I said, man, Lynn Monet was the same way. I heard about 2 sentences out of her mouth, and her energy, was just the thing. And that's how we find people. And it's wonderful to have somebody that's got 50 years in this. And then we come to this time, and what we're trying to do is just put the hard-earned knowledge and wisdom. I still say I don't know anything. I don't know shit.
Yep.
But I think what I'm comfortable in my theories and what I've seen, I can't get out of. And what you're saying, I agree with 100%, because everybody feels like they got to put everything in a neat little file cabinet.
Right.
Everything's got to fit. And paranormal doesn't do that. Supernatural doesn't do that.
No, it doesn't.
It's not going to fit in a box for you. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I had to let you know that I'm so excited. My adrenaline's pumping. So it's just good energy. It's good energy.
Well, one of the things that I gathered from your book, especially from the first one, because a lot of it was you deciding to get on Melissa, go out around Florida or to Georgia. And it seemed like you would just get a hunch or get a feeling, and then you would just go with that gut.
Yeah.
Like I remember that one chapter, the banana chapter, where you had a lucid dream about a town named Banana in Florida.
That was so incredible.
First thing you did when you woke up, you looked it up, and you were like, you know what? I'm going to get on my bike and I'm going to go there right now.
Exactly.
That's
what I did. Was a lot of it was this leading from the other side. Yeah. And, I knew that if I followed that leading, that would be to some purpose or to some experience that would be meaningful and that would teach me lessons, and then that would help me hopefully to pass those lessons on to others. And so that's what I did. And some of those rides, I can't say that they were directly led or intuited, but I would get up and just say, okay, I'm just going whichever way the wind blows. And the guys on the other side knew that's where I was going. They were like, okay, you think you're just going willy-nilly, but we got something set up down the road for you here to experience that's going to be pretty mind-blowing and be pretty neat.
And there were some real mind-blowing stuff.
It was all guided and directed, I think.
And oh man, there were so many crazy things, Cisco. Like, the part where you got picked up by the tornado, I was like, I had anxiety when I was reading that. I was like, oh no.
Okay, you got to tell me. You got to tell. He's told me little bits and pieces, and then I tell him, don't tell me, because. And again, we don't want to give away everything in the book because we want you to get John's book, but my gosh, some of the experiences I've heard.
In West Texas at the tip end of Tornado Alley. So I've been through a lot of tornadoes, a lot of really bad thunderstorms, hail, winds, all types of things. Seen all kinds of wild weather phenomena. So whenever I see something, I know what it's indicative of. And so I had been on this long ride. I think the day was maybe 300 miles. And that was a typical ride. And I was coming back in, and I hit one of my favorite rest stops. And I said, well, I'll stop, use the restroom, get a snack, get a soda. And I looked back behind me, and to the north, there was the storm blowing in, but it was moving really, really slowly. And the clouds weren't very dark. And I said, okay, well, I got time to stop, take a break. I can outrun it, no problem. And I sat there and, you know, went to the restroom, got myself a snack, got a soda, sat there and drank it. And then as I looked up, the storm had gotten a little closer than I anticipated, but it was still far enough off. I didn't feel in danger. And I've ridden thousands of miles in the rain. I've ridden in hail. I've ridden in all kinds of bad winds, everything else. So I was like, okay, I'm all right. And this one part of the storm kind of elongated, and the clouds kind of started snaking down toward the south and off over to the west. And I'm watching that, and I'm like, well, I'm still okay because I've still got blue skies and sunshine around me and ahead of me. And so I said, well, I'm okay. So I get on the bike, and I start out of the rest stop, and I get on the access road to get on I-95 south. And as I accelerate to get on I-95, the wind is so strong that now between me and Melissa, my bike, we're about half a ton, right? Down everything. And the wind is so strong that it almost blows me over into the lane next to me, into the car next to me. And I'm like, thanks. I'm wrestling, getting control of the bike. And I notice that the wind has suddenly become so fierce. Now, we still got blue skies and sunshine where I'm at, but the wind has become so fierce that even big trucks are slowing down, and even cars are starting to slow down. And people normally speed like crazy on the interstate in Florida. Sometimes they go 80, 90, 100 plus. Yeah. And they're slowing down to like 45, 50 miles an hour. And I'm like, man, this is incredible in itself that, you know, traffic is slowing down this much.
Right.
And so I'm starting to really having to wrestle with a motorcycle, and the wind's getting really crazy. And I look up ahead of me, and the foliage and the grass and the trees, the low grass and everything is bent sideways and flat and rippling like this. And I'm like, oh, I know what this is. This is a tornado somewhere. And I'm starting looking around. I don't see anything. And I'm looking out in the field, and I don't see anything except this fierce wind. And I'm still wrestling for control of the bike. And I'm like, dang, I've ridden in some wind, but man, this is getting kind of hairy. And I've still got blue skies and sunshine.
It's
and
incredible.
I'm looking around, and all of a sudden, Melissa and I are picked up together. I'm not lifted off the saddle. We're picked up together as one unit, picked up into the air, about 6 inches or a foot. And we're hovering in the air, going through the air 50 miles, about 45, 50 miles an hour.
Whoa!
In the air, and we start to rotate. And I'm like, oh my God. Now, this happens in like a few seconds. And in my mind, what I'm going to tell you, this happens like this. And I'm thinking, oh my God, if I go down sideways, if this thing sets me down sideways, I'd go over flat and hit the pavement at 45, 50 miles an hour, and then get run over by 5 or 10 cars before they figure out what's going on and stop. So I'm like, guys, got to help me a little bit here. The second thing I think of is, you know, all bikers say they want to go out on the bike at speed. Well, here it is. I'm fixing to find out what the other side is actually really like in person. And then I think, who's going to take care of Marjorie, my wife? And I'm like, oh my God, all these things are going through my head. And then
like this, it's so fast.
Bends me back around very gradually, but I'm still a little off kilter to straight, and it sets me down. And I'm like, oh my God, guys, help me. And I call upon every bit of body English, every bit of bike handling knowledge I've got, and everything else, and asking the other side to help me to stay upright, stay straight, get the bike corrected. And I do. And I look up, and this funnel cloud is coming straight down toward me, exactly straight down toward the bike and me. And man, I downshifted, and I wicked that bike up. I put the throttle to the stop. I leaned down over the tank, and I didn't shift till the engine was screaming. And I ran through the gears, and I just laid down hot over the tank. I said, I don't care if there's a cop around, whatever. If they want to try and catch me, fine. I'll stop down the road. And I flew to get out of there. And so down the road, and it's still blue skies and sunshine. Still in blue skies and sunshine. the wind finally lets off a little bit, and I ease up because I'm running well over 100 by now, right?
Mm.
So I ease up off the bike and sit up, and I'm like, wow, man. So I'm on my way to, and I was actually, when I was finishing the ride, I was on my way to this place that's out of business now, but it was called the Tattoo Tavern. And I have 2 tattoos from there. And the one of the things they did, the tattoo artist ran a Friday the 13th special. This was like the day before Friday the 13th, which has typically been my lucky day. And she ran this special that if you came in, got the number 13, and I did. I don't know if you can. Whoop, I'm going the wrong way. Don't know if you can see it here. Where is it? No, I can't.
There it is. Yeah, I can't get that either. I'm always
There's
like
13. There we go.
No.
all right.
I go in to get the 13, and she's running the special like the day before and on the 13th and the day after. So you can get the number 13 for $13. I said, man, that's some cheap ink. I got to have this. Thank you so much, guys. And so I go in. The tattoo parlor's not open yet. So it's a tattoo parlor and a bar. And I think that's the most genius thing ever on the entire planet, right?
You can sell more tattoos that way.
Yeah.
I got all mine when I was drunk.
Exactly. So I don't normally imbibe on the bike anymore, but I thought, man, after this experience, I'm going to have a beer. I'm trying to talk to everybody, tell everybody what I experienced. They're like, sure. Yeah. Okay. Go away, old man. And so the parlor opens. I go over to get my tattoo, and I'm telling the tattoo artist what happened to me. And she's like, wow, this is really crazy. And as I'm sitting there getting the tattoo, I look out the window, and over across the street is the exact same funnel cloud that was coming down out of the sky towards me when I was on the bike. The exact same cloud, same color, same shape, same size, coming at the tattoo parlor from across the street at me. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, look. And she goes to the window, and she looks out, and she goes, huh, looks like it followed you, huh?
Oh,
like,
wow.
And it went on over, and everything was copacetic. And I got my 13 tattoo, and I haven't been picked up. Me and the bike haven't been picked up since. But that was that story. And I don't know anybody else on the planet, any other biker that has been picked up off the ground by a tornado, spun around, and then set back down.
And it's not the getting picked up part, because I lived in Alabama. When I got out of the Army, I was stationed at a Redstone Arsenal. So I stayed in Huntsville, Alabama, and all around Alabama for quite a while. And I stayed there probably 20-some years. And I'm originally from New Jersey, and that's where I am right now. I came back. Why? I don't know. But anyway, that's a long story. But I actually had a friend who was riding a bike, not a motorcycle, but an actual, bicycle, and got picked up like that. But when he got picked up, he said it took a minute. You're just still pedaling. You don't know what to do, and you're hanging on for all you're worth. And just like you said, all this stuff is going through your mind. And it just happened to be in that first part, because, man, if you get up in the middle, you're getting whipped and ripped apart of all the stuff that's up in there. But it was just enough to pick him up, slung him, and he wound up on the other side in a field, on the other side of the cornfield, and, like leaning in a ditch, and he's still hanging on. I said, well, you still pedaling? He goes, yeah, for about 15 minutes. But he's still, bike and all, went that way. But I've never heard on a motorcycle before. My ex had a couple of things with tornadoes in Alabama, and like you said, hail, you name it, all kinds of different things. He was hardcore too. But never got picked up by a tornado. But I know that bicycler did, and it was just amazing that he was around to talk about it. I've seen some tornadoes do some crazy things. We had 11 in one day, John. 11 in one day. And that's when I said I'm going back to New Jersey. And I can promise you this, the day I got back here that night, tornado in New Jersey. Took out tops of the trees right where I was. I'm like, okay, I give up.
It followed you. Yeah,
it did. It's weird. It's really weird.
I would have been scared from riding bikes if I had something like that happen to me with the tornado. I would have been like, oh, no more bikes for me. I'm too scared. But
it's incredible.
You're going to go some way, so you might as well choose the way you're going to go. You might as well take your chances, right?
You live. That's the thing. Live and learn. That's the whole thing. Trying to learn. The problem is a lot of people are living, and they're so materialistic, they're forgetting to learn and to care for others and different things like that. And it's a big deal. It does make a difference. It makes a difference in how your outlook on things and how you take things that come at your vantage point. I'm working on now is my biggest problem, I think, in another life, I've heard, I don't know if you know anything about past life regression. I'd love to ask you that. But I've been told many times that I've been a soldier, a warrior in many different lives. And I think this time it was just like, no, you got to do different. But I still got that. I idle at a 95, John. So everybody's like, how'd you get so? And I'm like, no, we don't understand. I idle here. So it's just it's not that hard. But that's the thing I got to get rid of this time. And to understand to love them through it. It's not my job to fix people, love them through it. And that's like, I think, the hardest lesson. And before Donnie asks you the next question, I'd like to ask you that, when you're talking to ghosts and, you're having the experiences and all that. And for so long, I heard you say a quote and I thought it was absolutely beautiful. And I meant to get it for the show tonight, but it was basically what you'd learned from all of these experiences is basically to be that person, to be that change, to be that love and that light in the world. And people usually that I talk to that's lived through that kind of, 50, 60 years of paranormal experiences usually come away with that. And I wanted you to expand on that before we got caught up, because I know Donnie's got some great questions, but that's what I wanted to hear from you.
Yeah. Well, I think the one thing that I've learned over the years of doing this is that if we can exercise any gift or any energy or do anything, it has to be compassion and it has to be love. And we have to understand that everyone on this planet is searching, hurting, needing, and our problems derive primarily from our religious upbringings and our religious adherences, our politics, what we let our political leaders lead us into, our dogma, our traditions, our rituals. And if we can begin to look past that and look at each other as fellow human beings, and that we're all in need, and you can't go out. Look, you can't go out willy-nilly and say, I'm going to take care of everybody that comes along, because there's all kinds of horror stories of people with good hearts. I remember this one story. This elderly woman took in this young man that was homeless and didn't have anything. She gave him a chance and helped him, and he slit her throat and took her money and stole her car keys, stole her car. So, you're not going to be rewarded with kindness for every good deed you do.
So true.
And look, even the Bible said, Jesus didn't trust himself to any man because he knew what was in the hearts of men. And so we do have to understand that. We can't go out and be stupid. But whatever opportunity that we're granted to be compassionate to someone, to help someone, to enlighten someone, we have to take advantage of that. And that's what this whole thing comes down to. If we can learn to interact with people, teach people, do something with people in such a way that it betters their life, enlightens them, gives them some hope, gives them some comfort, gives them some healing, whether that's mental or emotional or physical healing. That has to be our aim, and that has to be our goal in all of this. Now, granted, it's entertaining. Like Donnie said, Jesus Christ, the stories in here, for Christ's sakes. Yeah, they're mind-blowing, and they are entertaining, and they are fun. But they all have a purpose, and they all have a lesson to teach, and they all have something that we can learn from. And in this life, that has to be the main goal of everything that we do. And of course, we all have to make a living. We all have to do this, blah, 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 and so on and so forth. But within that framework, we can't lose sight of the fact that we have to find ways to help each other to whatever degree that we can. We have to help this earth to whatever degree that we can, realize that the earth is a sentient being as well. We have to interact with the other side and get involved with whatever they're doing to help humanity, to help themselves, to help other realms, to help other entities, other beings, other intelligences. We have to get a broader scope on this thing and realize there is a lot at stake here. There is a lot at stake here. And it's not just our universe, John. Yeah.
Universe is a lot bigger than we give it credit for as well.
Oh God, we can't even begin to imagine. We haven't even scratched the surface.
They want you boxed in, people. They want you to think small. They want you to concentrate on the tickety talks and the inner tubes and all that other stuff. And they want you distracted. So you think that you have to keep up with the Joneses, because I'm telling you, when whatever evil is afoot can actually make a mother think that, I was just telling the story today. She was bragging that she was able to get her everything together so she could put her 3-week-old baby in daycare so she could go back and do her job. And I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying, at what point did we come through where I'm letting somebody else raise my kid because I want to buy that car?
Yeah, exactly.
I drove around in a POS 500 for at least 15, 16 years, and I homeschooled my kids. And you find a way, because that bond is the most important thing you've ever been.
That's what we've lost with each other now.
True.
We've lost sense of community. We've lost sense of family. We go through the motions of religion. We go through the motions of spirituality. It's like, I say all these people that go out on these shows do these so-called paranormal investigations. And then a lot of the amateur investigators, they go out, they set up a REM pod. They get a manifestation, hot dog, let's break out the snacks, and then, where we're going to go eat after this. Well, you haven't understood what spirit is communicating, why, what they want to get across, what they hope to tell you, what you might need from them, what they might need from you. And, this is not a microwave realm that you put your request in, punch the button, okay, one and done. It's like, I tell people, if you're going to go do a paranormal investigation, first know what you're doing. And then secondly, go and be prepared to spend as much time as you possibly can there. If you can stay a week and investigate all day long and part of the night or all night long, sleep a little bit the next day, and do that for a week. If you can do that. And guess what? Having done that, no matter how much you get, you haven't scratched the surface. Because it's like, I've just met Donnie, I've just met Cisco, you've just met me. We're getting to know each other. We're swapping stories, and we don't know a tenth of the thing about each other's history, lives, what they've been through, and everything else. So it takes time, the same way in the paranormal realm, to conduct an investigation, to find out who you're dealing with, why they're there. Is it a spirit that only comes through periodically? Did they come through one and done? Is it somebody that hangs around there for a long time for a particular purpose, a particular reason? Is
somebody that hangs around you and you brought them with you?
Yeah, they tag along with me, and of course I know, because I know the guys that come along with
me. Right. But you know what I'm saying. A lot of people don't.
But these are the things that we have to understand.
You can get a full recording and still not. So it's evidence, but it's not evidence enough. And I totally agree with what you're saying.
It's not the meaning behind it.
And it's so true.
And it's very frustrating, because you see people like, use EVP. And I always give this illustration, but it's so damn true. And Rodiv didn't discover EVP. It goes way back before him. I read a book, a treatise on EVP, and it goes back way, way, way back before him. And so for all of this communication coming up through, whatever period of time, basically most people, if you got EVP, it was Bill is okay. Now here we are in 2022. We have every type of computer, every type of software, every type of this, every type of that. What do we get? Yes, sir. Yeah. It's like,
it's so true.
We haven't made any advancements.
This is exactly 2 weeks ago. We did a show just about this. I was showing an old we were doing Borley Rectory, so we were doing a little bit of Peter Underwood and a little bit of Harry Price, and go back to 1938. And I'm like, look at the equipment they had, and Hans Holzer and all. Look what everything they had, and here we are, 50 years later.
No better.
And we're just the same. So why not take a different approach, is my thought.
We just have more YouTube channels and podcasts, but they're still talking about the same things.
Same thing. And I'll add something to that too. if you're in a paranormal group, because Donnie and I took him out there. Donnie has just recently, well, like within 5 years, found out ghosts were real or something. You say, don't you?
Yeah,
He's
like
brand
5
new
years.
to this, so you
I'm
got
brand
the
new
old
to
and the
this.
new, which I think is real interesting.
What convinced you, Donnie?
Great question.
When I was living in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, in this apartment, there was activity, and let's just say I encountered my first shadow person, and I was like, "Oh,
wow,
that's real too." Oh, okay.
I love it. I love it. That's terrific.
He's been a real quick learner too. It's just
There
like,
you go.
you know, I saw him, and again, just like you, Don, I heard Donnie, and I heard his voice come through the phone. He called in one night, and I said, I need to talk more to him because he's got a lot to bring to this, and a whole different vantage point and insight and everything.
Oh, he's
And
authentic.
that's it. You know, there's at this point, there's no faking. If you're faking to get attention, it's who you helping? Who are you helping?
Yeah,
and that's why Donnie said your books and my book was similar, because that was my goal, to put my experience and try to remember it exactly as I could, not embellish it. If I don't know, I'll say, I don't remember what happened here, because who's going to learn if you're making it up?
When I said that they were similar, I didn't want to imply that your stories or your life experiences were similar, but what was very similar to me was kind of like the way you interpreted and like
that's
the
how
way
I
you
took
mentally
it,
digested these experiences into your own personal worldview. Because
Right.
it seemed like the two of you had like very similar,
which is beautiful, by the way. That's cool.
ways of like, you know, because in your book, right, you would have these crazy experiences, right, and then you would always have this takeaway of there's this other side, and they're there. They deserve our respect. They deserve our reverence. But also, we got to be able to accept some of the answers that are given to us, right?
Yes.
Because there were multiple points in your book where it was like, if I had not listened to my spiritual gut instinct, I wouldn't be alive today.
I'd be
there
dead.
was and when I read that, I was like, wow, that's
a gift from source. You know,
and literally guardian angels, you know, I literally get guidance from my guardian angels. I believe we all literally have guardian angels. And if we learn to listen to them and then act upon what they tell us, just like when I was, you know, flying up I-75 there, and then John, move into the far left lane, you know, if I hadn't been attuned to listen to that and then to obey that, I wouldn't be here. And so, you know, people need to understand that we do have angelic presences around us, guides, whatever you want to call them, that are real, that can interact physically to save our lives, to help us, to protect us. But the problem is that we're so wired in nowadays. You know, we've always got the cell phone going. We're always on the internet, on the computer. We got music going. We got TV going, all this, all that. And we never hear because we're always inundated with all this noise.
They don't want us to.
If we were in a party in this big room with a ton of people, and you and Donnie were on one side of the room and I was on the other, I could yell at you and you probably wouldn't hear me for all these people laughing and talking and making noise and carrying on. Well, that's our life. We're plugged into the TV, to the radio, to the computer, to the cell phone, to this, to that, and the other. But if everybody in the room suddenly fell silent, I could talk to you guys on the other side of the room in normal tone of voice and you'd hear me. So that's the spiritual realm. It's always there and it's always ready and willing to communicate with us, but we can't hear it. And if we'll get quiet, if we'll stop the cell phone, stop the computer, stop the music, stop the TV, stop everything else and get quiet and then listen and say, I'm here. What do you have to tell me? And then shut up and listen for the answer and keep doing that.
You have to do that, John, because it's free will too.
Get the answer, act on that answer. Do what they tell you, you know, and that's the key.
Don't talk yourself out of it. We tend to talk ourselves out of it. And I give the you know, the example of the rabbit, you know, munching on grass, minding his own business, got his head in the clover and just eating and everything else. When he gets that warning, he doesn't talk himself out of it. He knows there's a predator coming because that's his intuition. We have that too. And the something else, if you observe nature, I'm Native American, by the way, so we're real big. My great grandmother, boy, I've got a story for you one day. We'll talk. But won't we, Donnie? But we talk ourselves out of, the situation around us, like, oh, that's okay. Nothing's going to happen. I'm just going to keep eating this clover because I'm having such a good time. And well, pow, here comes the hawk. But something else you notice about nature, the chickadee, the smallest little bird in the yard, has 27 different calls. And it's not all for chickadees. It's for all the other animals. He is the alarm sounder.
Right.
And by his call, he can tell you if it's an owl, if it's a hawk, if it's, something, a ground predator like a fox. And all of the nature around stops and listens, and then everything gets quiet. And you notice that when everything gets quiet. And then one thing, the squirrel just keep hacking and hacking and hacking. But the chickadee is the one that sets it off. So don't talk yourself out of your intuition, because that and the fluoride in the water, calcifying your pineal gland. I'm telling you what, we're up against a lot. But, most everybody here is broken through the darkness into the light. We just got to help other people do it. We got to take other people with us.
Okay, now I got to bring up
amazing, John. I just love you, man. I just love you already.
Thank you.
I got to bring up a particular line of questioning because it lines up a lot with what Cisco and I have done. Is it okay if I tell them about your pilot that you did?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay. So much fun.
For the people listening, John did a pilot for, I believe it was the History Channel, correct? It was called Psychic Historians. Psychic History. And basically, the way you mentioned it, you were not totally familiar with history, or that part of history at least.
History at all.
And so they bring you in to do a psychic walkthrough of the locations of the Lincoln assassination.
Right.
And that piqued our interest because Cisco and I just got done doing a 4-part series on the Lincoln assassination and the conspiracy theory. And then when we were talking, I was like, "Oh my God, Cisco, he was actually there."
Donnie.
Yeah, conspiracy. Well, just conspiracy. But like, you were there. You saw the entities, you saw the spirits. You went to Ford Theater. You went to the very location where John Wilkes Booth died.
Yes.
So I kind of want to go through that and just pick your brain, because I guess you talked a bit about it in your book, but you didn't go into like too specific of like. Just, I know there was some other stuff that you probably saw. So
it would have been a banger of a episode, a series, by the way. Why they canned that is beyond me. Probably too truthful for him, John.
That may be, I don't know, but it's.
Can you tell us a bit about what you saw at? Well, let's start first at Ford Theater, because that's where you went first, right?
Oh, that was mind blowing. That was so mind blowing. The great thing about this was that. And you mentioned, and I write a little bit about this in the book. I am the world's worst history student. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I don't retain it. I hate it. I don't like it. In school, I was the guy that was literally writing cheat notes on his arm to try and pass the history test. The most boring thing in the world to me. I just detested. So I was the perfect guy to get for this, because I said, okay, if this guy really does get anything, he's going to be getting it psychically and not from any previous knowledge. So what was really awesome was a lot of these places had been explored by so-called psychics before. And I remember one of the stories that the production team was told was that they had this fairly quote unquote prominent psychic come through with her boyfriend or husband, whoever it was. And she was investigating one of these prominent places and went, "Oh my God, he touched me," and then fainted, and the boyfriend caught her or whatever. And so the result of that was all of these historical places were like, "Get these freaks out of here. Don't ever bring any more of these freaks in here again. That's it. No more of this forever." So because we have the cachet of Atlas Media, which was one of the largest production companies in New York City, and we have the cachet of the History Channel, and that lent us the credibility right there. And then they told them ahead of time, this guy is not anywhere near like that. There's not going to be any such distasteful experience. So they opened up as a result all of these places to us without any tourists there, no one there but the docents to open up the place. Then they got out of the way. Me and the film crew went in, had the place to ourselves for as long as we wanted it. No tourists, nobody there. Everything was shut down. So that in itself was just mind-boggling, to be able to go into these historic places.
Yeah.
Just to be there, have a carte blanche, run the place. And a funny thing, and I mentioned that in my book, one of the funniest things, we were going up the steps to Ford Theater. The production crew is behind me, the camera's on me, and they say, okay, you go up and open the door. We're going to get the shot of you going into Ford's Theater. And I walked part way up the steps, and I turned around and I said, the door is locked. They said, oh, no, we've called. They know we're coming. They're anticipating us. Go up and open the door. I said, the door is locked. And I walked up the steps, grabbed the door, tried to open it, and it was locked. And I laughed my head off. And so I did little things like that along to let the production crew know, hey, this is the real deal.
Real thing.
So got in Ford's Theater and had the run of the place and got interaction from several spirits, several entities and things there that we were able to confirm through history that those people had been there. And the amazing thing to me was to get all these impressions of Lincoln and of Booth, that interaction, when it occurred, and how Lincoln felt, what his reaction was, and how Booth felt, and what his reaction to what he had done was. And every single place that we went to investigate, because we were on the trail of Booth as he left the theater, went out of town, went to all these other places, and wound up where he was killed. And every single place we went to, my producer would go, was Booth sorry for what he did? Is he repentant? I said, no, Booth was totally non-repentant the entire way through. He was proud of what he did. He thought he did something great. This was an achievement. He's proud of this. He's never repentant the entire way through. So to realize that, but then the great thing that I got to realize about Lincoln was that we went across the street, and I don't remember the name of the house now, but the house
Parker.
From the Ford Theater.
Yeah.
We went to that house where after Lincoln was shot, he was taken there and was there during that night and then died there the next morning. And the thing that astonished me was that Lincoln, the second the trigger was pulled, Lincoln knew what happened. Yeah. And when he got to that house, he was laying in the bed being tended to by the doctors, people coming and going all night. His spirit was like in and out of his body. And his mindset, his spirit was such that son of a bitch, I mean, he thought Booth was a cowardly SOB, which he was. And he was enraged at that, disgusted at that. But he was very, very stoic about his death. He knew his death was imminent and he wasn't afraid. And he was like, okay, I've done the best I could do in life. I'm going to do the best with this. I've got to leave. I'll leave and I'll do what I can on the other side. And it was very courageous and very stoic and very matter of fact. And it astonished me to learn that.
That's brilliant, John, because if I had to describe it, that's the way I would have described it myself. And that's just from reading his words. And he had well, I don't know if you know this, but he had multiple premonitions of his death. And he made a choice deeper in, to a couple of years even before that, where he was like, I'm doing this and I'm going through this. And if they get me, they get me. I have to be among the people. I will not be ruled by that. And he lived his life. And I think even when he was at that theater, he kind of knew it was coming. It was coming. It was coming. And I'm thinking, man, he had 4 days. And very deeply.
Yeah, and he had dreams, and I think he had a dream even the night before or so about the possibility of something like that happening. But Lincoln was a ballsy guy. I didn't find out till after we had shot the pilot, and then years later, I did a little bit of research on my own just out of curiosity, and Lincoln had received something like 10,000 death threats during his life.
I actually read one of the letters live on the show.
How ballsy is this guy? Screw you. I'm just going to keep on going, doing what I'm doing. I mean, that's a lot. I mean,
he would tuck them into a cubby.
Threats. Most of us would be hiding in the closet somewhere, calling in the National Guard, and he just kept going. So that amazed me. But one of the neatest things that I was able to discern psychically, underneath the Ford Museum, there's a little, or Ford Theater, there's a little museum there, and they have some things, some artifacts. Some of them are the real deal, some of them are replicas. But anyways, they have the door going into the presidential box, and there's a hole drilled in it. And the plaque said the hole was drilled by Booth so that he could look in and see Lincoln and know when to burst in and shoot him. And I said, no, that's not right. I said, that's not how it happened. Booth did not drill that hole. Booth had the hole drilled by someone that worked in the theater that went around suspicious by being there, but Booth did not drill that hole. So after we shot the pilot, we had a ton of Lincoln experts. We had a ton of production people that did tons of research, post-production. And sure enough, they found out that my psychic input was right, that Booth did not drill the hole. It was drilled by a worker in the theater. So there were all these neat things that I was able to discern psychically as I went along, some of which contradicted the accepted history, but later we proved were correct. So that was pretty astonishing. That was pretty amazing.
Donnie and I can vouch for you too. When we did research on that, we dug. I went all the way back to his mama.
Yeah.
And where's mama? Because you remember that there was a movie that came out. I don't know if you know, but it was like, Lincoln, a vampire killer or something, and a vampire killed his mother. Right. And I'm like, okay, I'm going all the way back, because I also believe that he inherited his melancholia from her. And it was, a genuine chemical imbalance thing. But she was such a go-getter. And the reason she died, I don't know if you're aware of this, but the reason she died is because she was such a caring, giving person, which he also got from her. Family had, we say a close neighbor, but probably a mile away in that time, had gotten sick, and she went to nurse them. And while she was there, she drank the milk that the cow had eaten, the silver snakeweed, which was poisonous, and that's what they were sick from, and she drank the milk. So had she not been a caring, giving person, she would have never gotten sick. But we went all the way back trying to figure out, did he have depression? Was it something inherited? He did. He was actually medicating himself with some herbal things and mercury, of all things. He was taking that, he was taking a dose. It was 900 times what anybody should be exposed to. And how he lived through that, I don't know. The only answer to me would be that he was supposed to live to a certain time.
Yeah.
I believe he's one of those people that came through in this life and really made a difference, and paid dearly for it, through his son's deaths. And, he made himself go through the certain battlefields in Richmond and around because he would not hide from what he was standing behind. And he was really quite the human being. And I believe that he's like one of those that come through in this universe every so often. How an old soul come back through to finish something and get something big like that accomplished. And Donnie and I have even talked about the possibility of walk-ins, with him and some other people. So, that's incredible. So Donnie and I both said, we came to the conclusion, just like you, that Booth had a lot of help. There was a thing called the Knights of the Golden Circle that was very big in, that whole Southern Confederate thing, and we got them all the way pinned to Canada and back.
Really, really deep.
Actually,
absolutely.
Cisco, there was actually one real interesting thing, Johnny, that you mentioned in the chapter. Your second book is where you deal with the Lincoln experience, the knock in the attic, and in that chapter, you mentioned that there was actually another unknown conspirator sitting in the audience.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I
picked up
while I was at the theater that there was somebody in the back in the audience that was watching this take place. And his primary function was, I want to make sure Booth does this. And if he doesn't, or if he gets caught, or if he fails, or if he chickens out, if he gets shot, I'm there to jump in and either activate the other people in the audience into action or to do it myself. And so there were many, many people in on this conspiracy, and it ran very, very deep. And of course, then I found out that a lot of Lincoln scholars said, it's like the guy we had on the pilot said that Booth's finger was on the trigger, but there were many hands holding the gun. And that was true. And it was astonishing to see how many people were involved in this, how deep the conspiracy went. And it was mind blowing. It was incredible.
What a great premise for us. I mean, gosh, I'd be sitting on the edge of my seat watching every second of this show. Why is it not on?
Oh,
you know, what a beautiful premise, different.
Another real surprising thing that you mentioned was that the guy who shot Booth in the barn, wasn't aiming to kill him. He wasn't aiming to. He wasn't aiming to kill him.
No, he was aiming to wound him. And Booth was wobbling around on his hurt leg and had his gun and aimed and I guess firing at the people. And this guy was just trying to wound him and bring him down. And Booth wobbling around and with an unsteady, and the barn was already on fire. And he shot him in the throat, I believe it was. And then, Booth died from that wound. And it was so amazing to go when they took me out there. It was really funny, kind of unnecessary and kind of nonsensical, but they would actually blindfold me sometimes while we were driving, so I wouldn't know where we were going. And then they would release the blindfold when we got there and say, okay, where are we at and what went on here and blah, blah, blah. So they took me out to it's a highway. It's a divided highway now, a major highway. And just this median strip with all these woods in it. And that's all there was. And I was like, why in God's name are we here? And then all this psychic input began to come in. And I began to understand that Booth had been there, that the cavalry was coming, and that's where they found him. There was this big standoff, and that was where he was killed. And so where we were between these highways and this median strip had been this working farm that Booth had gone to and was hiding out at, and where the cavalry had come and got him and killed him. I was like, my God, it's just tremendous. So that was another thing for me to learn, to pass on to people from the book, was that we look at places now, we have no vague clue of the history of those places and what's going on there.
So
There's
true.
a place in Florida called Matanzas Inlet, and it's really pretty. You sit between, there's the inlet here, and there's a little beach, and then there's the ocean over here, and this restaurant there that my wife and I used to go to. And it's gorgeous and it's beautiful. And you know what Matanzas means? Slaughter. And that's where these, I believe it was French soldiers. You have to look it up. I believe it was French soldiers had slaughtered these Spanish soldiers. There on that very site. They had killed, like, I don't know, I can't remember how many it was, a dozen or so soldiers, whatever it was. They had slaughtered them on there on that site. Matanzas means slaughter. So you say, oh, let's go to Matanzas Inlet. It's all pretty, and there's people out there kite surfing, and there's people fishing, and there's a little restaurant, and there's all these people killed right there,
That's what kills us about, I say on the show all the time. People will call me because I get called into stuff all the time. I'm not one of those people that go so much to investigate. Like when I took Donnie, I'm like, let's go over. I use dowsing rods just to confirm. That's my old school stuff. Just to confirm so I don't check myself out of it, And I'm like, here, Donnie, I'll show you how we do it. Somebody threw a rock at me. I'm like, okay, I'll stay here. We're just trying to help through. And I'm like, look, if anybody wants to cross, we're going to do this really, really quick. I'm here to help you. I'm an ex-soldier. We went through the whole thing real fast. And actually, a couple of them listened. I didn't have time to go through the whole thing. And a couple of them stayed like, yeah, she's crazy, which I am, but that's okay. The main thing is people will say, but this is a brand new house.
Yeah.
I don't understand how it could be haunted. And I'm like, honey, you don't have any idea how many different ways.
Millions of years.
The earth remembers, the wind remembers, the rock remembers.
How many people have lived there and the land overtook it before somebody else came along and cleared it? And there you go. People need to read the book, The Practice of the Wild. And that'll steer you straight on. We think that all these areas of earth are pristine, and they're not. And this book, The Practice of the Wild, talks about all of these places that we presume are so remote and unexplored and unknown. But if you go back through history, these people have names for these places or have been through there, or it was a route somewhere, or people lived there for a while or whatever. So people, and I'm always telling people that, well, I built a brand new house. How could it be haunted? Because the land you're on has been there for millions of years. How do you know how many people have lived there, died there, passed through there? How many nature spirits are there? How many entities of various kinds are there that you don't even know? So every place on this planet is inhabited by energies, by spirits, by intelligences, by beings We have to learn that. We have to understand that. And
You've got some pretty
rocks lately. We could go into this. That's a whole other tangent. But you go out in the front yard, pick up a rock. That rock could be 1 million years old. Think about that. You know, that should boggle your mind. It's
this is a great question from Be Kind, or to talk about trees having everything has a soul. Everything has soul. It's a different one.
I was about to say,
everything.
There are some really compelling and interesting encounters that you've had with, I guess we can just call them nature spirits. Yeah. Especially that bamboo story. I was like, what the heck? That is bizarre. Yeah.
Everything has a consciousness or an awareness of some type, and everything has an intelligence. I watched a documentary here a while back. This wasn't a paranormal documentary, wasn't a spiritual documentary. It was a scientific documentary. Yes, we do walk on our ancestors' dust. This was a scientific documentary, and it talked about trees. And trees will send out through their roots, underground, through the ground, chemicals to repel other trees, to say, hey, this is my turf, stay away, don't come over here.
Wow, yeah.
There are trees that recognize their own species and will send chemicals to them and interact back and forth to help them grow and to help them develop, and will send out chemicals to other species saying, hey, this is our turf over here, kind of stay away. So there's an intelligence there.
Amazing.
There is a story, a true story, and I researched this a lot, and I have the links for it, and I probably lost them on all the computers I've gone through. But it just blew my mind, because there was someone that was murdered in, like, I believe it was a florist shop, plant store, something like that. And they had suspicions, but they didn't have any real clues. They didn't have anything really to go on. So one of the detectives, one of the people involved said, there's a witness to this. And they were like, what are you talking about? He said, the plants. They said, you're friggin' nuts. He said, no, the plants saw the murder. They know who the murderer is.
Yep.
And they were like, okay, you've lost the plot. He said, let's do this. He said, let's hook up this plant that was in the area of the murder. Let's hook up this plant to these electrodes. And we'll bring in our list of suspects with some ringers. We'll do a lineup. And we'll bring it in and see if there's a reaction from the plant. So they get the guy they suspect of the murder. They put him in the lineup. They bring in some innocent people. So they bring him in. They'll bring the first person toward the plant, no reaction. Bring the next person, no reaction. Bring the guy they suspect of the murder. The plant reacts. The needle goes off the chart, goes ape shit crazy, ape shit wild. Voila. So
there it is. I know the story. Yes.
There's an intelligence there. It's not a human intelligence, but it's an intelligence. And it's like I tell people about my little dog. I've got a little dog. And most people that have dogs, I know this. You have to quit saying we should take him for a ride, and you have to say we should take him for an RIDE, because he knows the word ride and he goes ape crazy and he runs for the door. So our little dog has now learned. Yes, The Practice of the Wild by Gary Snyder. Get it? It's an awesome book.
There's the PDF. You guys can download that, I believe, for free. So get in on that.
Yeah.
There you go.
So my little dog has now learned to spell. We resorted to, we should take him for an RIDE. Now he's learned to spell. He knows what RIDE is, and he goes ape crazy and runs for the door. There is an intelligence. It's not a human intelligence, but it's intelligence. And what we have to understand in interacting all these things, we put ourselves up on this pedestal, and we think we're so high. We think we're so smart. We think we're so mighty. Dumb animal, dumb person, tree, rock, whatever, no big deal. You have to understand that all of these things possess an intelligence, an ability for interaction. And we ignore this at our peril. That's one of the things that's wrong with the earth now, is we've gotten away from all that. We've gotten away from what our ancestors knew. And instead of invoking that and working with that and treasuring that, we're so materialistic and we're so pseudo-intellectual that we think we have all the answers, and we think technology has the answers, and we think medicine and materials and this, that, and the other has the answer. And the answer's out in your backyard.
Mhm.
And if you'll go and sit and listen
Amen.
to nature, listen to the trees, invoke the spirits, invoke the rocks, and birds, crows. I'm a professional photographer, and I spent a couple of years or more, way more than a couple of years actually, interacting with this crow family that would come to the yard. I started feeding them. They started to come. And crows call, call, call. Well, no, crows have about 12 different vocalizations. Some of them sound like a little hen clucking when they're contented. Some sound like laughter. Some of the traditional calls. Some is this weird clucking that almost sounds like a turkey. They were sitting outside the house the other day. We had the kids over and they were sitting on the couch and a crow was out there doing that. And our son's fiance said, "What in the world kind of fake weird bird noise is that?" So that's a crow. So one of the vocalizations they were making.
It's amazing when you pay attention, isn't it? And they also recognize your face if you fed them. We have people in here that tells the stories. They'll bring you little gifts. I have them follow me to work.
Yeah, and so this crow family I was working with and photographing and doing all these things, learning all these things from. One day they came out to the front yard and were just absolutely going ape shit, crazy, nuts, wild, loud, wouldn't stop. And I was like, where we're at in Florida, we have bears, we have bobcats, we have snakes, we have this, we have that, we have everything in the world. And so I was like, okay, is there some predator out there they want me to be aware of? What in the world is going on? And so
Excuse me 1 second. My battery's about to die. I'm going to go plug it in. You guys keep going, okay? I'll be right back. Sorry.
So I walk out in the front yard, and there's all the crow family, and they're gathered up here on this power pole where the power runs into the house, and they're just screeching, just going crazy, just going nuts. And my intuition, I try and connect with them, like, what's wrong? And so I connect with them, and I walk over there, and on the pole where they're sitting, underneath that pole, apparently one of the crows, a young crow, had hit the power line, got electrocuted, my best guess. Anyways, it's laying there by the pole dead. And they are just screeching. They're just going nuts. And I looked up at them and I said aloud, I said, I understand. I'm sorry for your loss. I will take care of this bird. I will take it. I will bury it with honor. I'll cover it so no predators get it. I will take care of it for you. And they got quiet. And I took the bird and I buried it and I covered it over with something so that no predators could dig it up. The crows got quiet and they all went away. There's intelligence. It's not human intelligence, but it's intelligence. And
did they ever come back afterwards?
Do what?
Did the crows ever come back afterwards?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And what we have to learn is that we have to kind of understand that there are other things out there that can communicate with us and might give us things that are life-saving. I remember reading about a guy a long time ago, decades ago. I read about this guy that had taken up hang gliding. And as he was hang gliding, he got into this really like almost storm wind-like conditions, and he didn't know how to handle the glider, and he was losing control, and he was afraid he was going to die. And out of the blue, here comes this bird and comes up beside him. And every time the wind would do a certain thing, the bird would look over at him and make this maneuver. And then the guy was like, oh, okay, I get it. The bird's teaching me how to fly in this wind. Oh. So every time the bird did something, he would mimic it in the glider. And he did that. And every time he did that, he was okay. Oh. He got through the wind and he got down to a safe altitude where the wind was less, where he could land, and the bird flew off. So, and at the same time, a bear will come out of the woods and eat you. But that goes back to respect, to knowing where the limitations are, to knowing where and how to communicate with this. And when we go into nature, when we go on a paranormal investigation, whatever we do, our attitude should be one of respect. We're coming into your territory. I don't mean any harm here. I'm not challenging you. I come to see if there's help I can give you, if there's help I can get from you, if there's something I can learn from you, something you can learn from me. And I come to, what can we find out together here? Can we work together here for the betterment of all of us, of the other intelligences out there and everything? And so that's how we have to come into this.
Speaking of other intelligence, oh, Cisco, you're muted.
Cisco, your mic's off. Your
Cisco,
mic's
you're
off.
muted.
Cisco.
There we go.
There you go.
Sorry, guys. I didn't mean to leave you guys like that, but I forgot to
That's
plug in my
okay.
computer.
That's
My
okay.
bad. But I heard what you were saying, and I absolutely agree with everything. I knew I would. But and that's not giving me credit. That's giving my spirit guides and my it's not even my ability to read energy. It's just that, like John said, I've let go and I've let, I figured, I've tried to run my stuff all the way up here, 60
Yeah.
years. Maybe I'll give them, listen to my guides and everything else,
Yeah,
and they've helped
exactly.
me. John, I give people in the chat, I say, go this week and allow yourself, tell your, I may have missed the signs before, but send them now. I'm paying attention.
Exactly.
See if you get that
Exactly.
1111. I
Yeah.
said, see if you get feathers. I got 2 in the same day.
Yeah.
That I needed them the most. I said, just give me guidance that I'm doing the right thing here. Because, when a pet's sick, they can't tell you everything. And I don't necessarily believe everything Western medicine tells me. I have to go back to nature and do both. Yeah. But I was getting all these feathers and pennies and, from heaven and whatever. Exactly. But once you put that intent out there, it's great. Now, I went up in Alabama. I bought a little piece of land, and when you built a house, you had to put it in a certain, they wanted everything in a nice, neat row. And I fought it because they were going to cut down a 250-year-old oak to do so.
Yeah.
And I stood on that tree, and my sons were like, you don't understand. She ain't moving.
Mm-hmm.
You just do not understand. You're not going to battle her,
Right.
And she'll climb that tree and be there forever. So I made a deal with the tree. They kept saying it was dead. And I'm like, no, it's not. I can feel it's alive. Mm-hmm. And I said, they said, well, it's going to die. And then the tornado and the winds is going to throw stuff on your house and stuff like that. I said, no, it won't. Yeah. And I promise you, my sons are here today to witness this. I put my hand on the tree. I said, I'll fight to keep you. I said, but just don't ever drop a limb on my house. And it never did. They'd be all around, but it never dropped one on my house.
Exactly.
My house. And it was as alive as you and I.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Come right back blooming.
People think that things like this are crazy, but if you will open yourself up to the spiritual realm, to the realm of nature, and make that communication with authenticity and with the respect, you will be absolutely astonished at what you experience, what the interaction is from this realm. And then the biggest mistake people make when they get that initially, well, that was my imagination, or, oh, that was coincidence, or whatever. Don't do that. You ask for something, you get it, respect it, honor it, give thanks for it.
Yes.
Then continue that interaction and continue to learn, continue the depth of your spiritual growth.
So true. So true. It's like exercise, doing sit-ups. So your first week of basic training, you're miserable. I think, the pain is incredible, but you eat through that pain, you keep going. And the more you do the exercise, the easier it is. And it's the same with your intuition. We all have it. We all have that ability. Some are more in tuned or vibrating on this consciousness at this time. Maybe you have
some people get different levels of gifts. We can all play the piano, but I might study 2 years and do good to play chopsticks.
Yep.
And there's some 5-year-old kid somewhere ripping off Beethoven.
Same damn thing.
Cry, So we all have gifts. We all have our levels that we're going to plateau at. And what you have to do is study and research and interact with and practice whatever level of ability you have, and don't go by somebody else. Don't go try and strive for this thing or that thing or their thing or whatever. Find out what your gifts are and find out what level you can take that gift to, and then be satisfied with that. Because not everybody's going to get to the same level of gift, and there's reasons for that. But study what you've got, get to where you can go, be satisfied with that, do the best you can with it, and realize you have a niche that maybe I can't fill. I've got a niche maybe you can't fill.
Because that's the way it's supposed to be.
We all work together.
It's supposed to be together.
That's it. Yes. If we all work together, that cohesiveness takes place, and we can do some good.
So true. So true. And I think that's it. It's just like, I often use the Waltons as a reference. That pendulum's swinging, ain't it, buddy?
There you
I mean,
go.
woo, boy, when it swings back, y'all better be ready because we're come a long way from the wall. But they all got through. They knew there was a depression, but they loved each other through it. You know, the babies were there in the same house. The older people were in the house. They had the wisdom. They would sit at the table and everybody would talk. Everybody was a part of everybody's lives. And, you know, they would help the neighbor. And like you said, too, they weren't crazy about it. You know, I mean, they did it smartly to help somebody. You know, they kind of went on that whole basic of, you know, teach a man to fish kind of thing. You know, I'm not going to do it for you. You got to show me you got a little, you know, a little grit in there, you know, and then if you show yourself, you can pull yourself out of this hole. Because if you don't get people to do that, they're going to jump right back in the hole again as soon as you let go. They're every time. And there's some people you just got to let go in the hole. They'll get out eventually because you can't drown with them.
That's
so
it.
that's just the way
and
it is.
you can give people tools and teach them how to use those tools, but it's up to the people to take those tools and use them. You can't do it for them, you know. And you can't change people. People are who they are. I always tell people, and I tell all my clients, I say, look, when you first meet somebody, they will tell you who they are. And you may be going, oh, no, you're a great person. No, you're not like that. Or you may have some fantasy that you want that person to be or whatever.
We'll try to fix them.
When you first meet somebody, they will tell you who they are. And take that to heart and act accordingly.
There you go. Great advice.
When I was dating, I had girls that told me, man, you shouldn't hang out with me. I'm crazy. I'm dangerous. And I learned through life experience that listen to what they tell you. People will tell you who they are. And take that to heart. And don't think that, well, that may be the case, but I'm going to help you. I'm going to change you. I'm going to make you better. I'm going to rescue you. No, you're not. You're going to go down with a sinking ship. Is what you're going to do. So,
So true. You got to know.
Spiritual realm, we have to have strength, guidance, insight, intelligence, purpose, will. And, you know, there's a lot of roads that are just waiting for us to stumble down the wrong path and lose what we've got and lose our intuition and lose our money and lose our health and lose our time and lose what we've got. There's all kinds of paths and roads out there.
There's so many easy ways to lose your shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
but again, sometimes
so
you're
aware and so tuned in to this that we don't stumble down those paths. And some of that comes through experience for a reason, but mainly it will come if we will just listen. And when that inner voice says, don't go there, don't do that, obey that, listen to that, and learn self-control, learn self-discipline, learn self-denial. So, okay, I'm going to go this way instead.
And be willing to give your love too. I mean, a lot of people, this just came to me, so somebody needs to hear it. And I didn't, you know, don't think because I looked at the chat, it was for somebody, you know, right here. It's not. It could be somebody's going to listen to this a year from now. So, but if it resonates with you, then take it and do with what you will. But, you know, again, it's your consciousness. And we always say, enjoy the journey. It's not, you know, people get all caught up in like, why is this, you know, why is mine so hard and they're so easy? Don't worry about what those people are doing. You know, those might be a younger soul that's coming through and have to realize that, you know, you know, the life isn't about materializing who has the most toys wins and all that other stuff. And you're over here. Let them be who they're going to be. Give your advice if somebody you care about.
You be who you're going to be.
Yes, absolutely. But also, if you've got that person at work that just really pushes your buttons, you also have to look at it. The universe is an amazing mechanism. And sometimes those people are there to not just for them to maybe get some wisdom off of you that they're not going to hear for 20 years, but maybe it's for you to practice your patience. Maybe it's for you to practice not getting angry or not letting it in, you know, and carrying it with you, you know.
Or to have some insight about why they're that way. And maybe you can tell them something, share with them something that makes their life easier or changes their perspective. I know I've told a lot of clients over the years, I said, look, you've become proficient at being sad or practicing grief or holding a grudge or whatever. And that's a choice. You chose to do that. The emotion is real. The circumstance was real. It wasn't fair. It wasn't right. It was
Mhm.
negative. It was bad. It was horrible. But you've chosen to hold on to it and extenuate it and perpetuate it and keep it going. Now you can choose to let it go. Doesn't mean it didn't exist. Doesn't mean it didn't hurt. Doesn't mean it wasn't right or wasn't fair or whatever. But you just say, okay, yeah, but I'm not letting that control me and manipulate me and hold on to my life and direct my life any longer. I'm going to put it in its place. I'm always going to remember it. It's always going to hurt. It's always going to be unfair or whatever it was. But guess what? It doesn't have to control me. I can move forward in a more positive way, and I can choose to live better, and I can choose to let go of the grief or choose to let go of the resentment or the anger or the bitter, whatever I'm experiencing. I can let go of that. I can subjugate that. I can put that behind me and say, you know what? I'm look at this world out here. I've got opportunity, I've got health, I've got a little bit of money, I've got blue skies, I got sunshine, I got things to be grateful for. I can move ahead and advance my life in good ways. I don't have to live dragging that grief around, dragging that resentment around, dragging that
baggage claim.
I can let go of that.
Baggage claim.
Yeah,
that's what I call it. I give the thing. It's like going to the airport, collecting your. I know what my luggage look like. It's that beat up thing with the bungee cords on it, the duct tape, and the half smiley face stickers that are peeling off. I know what my luggage is. I carry that around. It's got one broken wheel. Just because you come in over to me and you bring your luggage and you drop it in front of me, I ain't picking that up. That's yours.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's yours. I can give you advice, but I got advice. I got 30 years ago.
A lot of our own luggage.
That's true.
That's one of the greatest things I learned. I had that that epiphany for myself because I had a very difficult childhood. And there were things in my childhood that were not fair, that were not right, that were horrific. And after my parents died, and I was the fixer from a young age. And it was so weird because I'd be like a kid and adults would come to me and go, what do I need to do here? Give me some advice. I'm like, I want to be out in the yard playing with my ball. I don't want to be
10 years old.
So that was my life from an early age. And after my parents had died, I was like, okay, there's nothing to fix. They're gone. There's no opportunity. And I carried that with me for a lot of years, and it really, really hurt. And I literally had this epiphany. I was sitting there one night, and I was like, God, my parents are gone. There's no fixing it. There's no righting all these wrongs. How do I deal with all this emotional pain and everything? And I literally got this epiphany. My guys on the other side came and said, it sucked. It was wrong. It was unfair. It hurt. But guess what? It's gone. You can't change it. Can't fix it. Can't do nothing about it. Do you want to keep dragging it around, or do you want to say, God damn, that shit hurt, but there you go. Hey, look at my future. Would you rather do that? I was like, oh my God, mind blown. What an epiphany. It was like, you're right. And I put it behind me and I said, you know what? I've got my life ahead of me. I've got good choices ahead of me. I've got good adventures and experiences ahead of me. And that enabled me to put that in that perspective that I had chosen all those years to drag that around. And I could make the choice to say, hey, guess what? Not dragging it along any longer.
Absolutely true. And that's it. It's like, I tell people, you don't have to forget it. Enjoy the journey. And what that means is, I had an elder tell me one time, there's a lot of people arguing about religion or this or that, or, what, at a powwow, for Pete's sake. I'm like, oh, please. But, all this going on, I'm like, all this around you, and this is what you guys are arguing with. And you're supposed to be the elders that are the representative slice of that pound of bacon. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I'm like, and here's all these people over here acting in reverence and, cherishing nature and cherishing the time together and the regalia and the traditions and things like that, the real people. And, we went off to the side and talked, and, this one elder shaking his head, and he looked back and smiled at me, and he said, you understand, don't you? And I said, I think I do, but as soon as I know I do, I don't,
sure.
So I'm, I'm thinking.
It's like I tell people, I said, look, as old as I am, and for all of these experiences that I've had, the less that I know, I haven't even scratched the surface. I've had all these experiences. I've gained all this knowledge. The more I know, the less that I know. And I know that, though, And so
But that I know.
To the other side to say every day, hey man, teach me, help me to understand, keep me moving forward, keep me advancing, and keep me going, because we haven't even scratched the surface in all of this. One of the things that hampers us in paranormal investigations and psychic investigations and all these things, the thing that hampers us is ego, dogma, tradition, ritual, and the the ego. Well, I know how it's done. I know how it is on the other side. I know this. No, you don't.
There's no experts, man.
You know, there ain't
The
no
dead
experts.
aren't even experts.
There ain't no experts.
I would say ego, but also vanity. There's a lot of vanity.
Oh yeah.
And oddly enough, John and Donnie too, and everybody in chat, if you think about it, that's what holds a lot of ghosts back. The same things hold them back. That baggage we're talking about. It's like how not to be a ghost 101. Start emptying your pockets now. All those lower vibrational emotions and thoughts.
Exactly.
I'm not talking to that sister. Call her up. Get it handled now.
Yeah.
Get it handled
Deal
now.
with it one way or the other.
Absolutely.
Deal with it one way or the other.
Because that's why they're staying, John.
Yeah.
Like you get your funny ones that we all laugh at, like Lynn Monet bumped into the who she calls Dapper Dan at the hospital, and you'll laugh at this, John. Somebody was leaving. She deals with a lot of death, 35-year nurse. So she sees them when they start to come to assist to cross over and back and forth. She sees all that.
Absolutely.
And she was bringing the cart, and she saw this one guy peeking behind, very well dressed, Dapper Dan. And she's like, what are you doing? Like, you see me? They went through that whole thing. And she says, well, if you want to cross, there's a light in that room. She's fixing to go over. You could just jump right in. And he goes, oh, no. He goes, I'm not ready for that. She says, well, may I ask you why? And he says, well, my ex-wife is over there, and my mistress is over there now, and I'm not going into that. It took her so many years to tell him, you know what, you're probably fine with it now. It's not going to be like that. And I do a lot. I know. They're probably best buds standing right there next to him. He don't even know it because he can't see him.
That guy's
hysterical.
That guy's going to stay on Earth until doomsday.
Right.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
We have to understand too that when a person crosses over, they don't automatically become enlightened.
Nope. Takes time.
They go through a growth process. They go through a learning process. They're still the same person, with the same memories, the same emotions, the same will, the same intelligence, the same sense of humor. Yes, they're all just guessing like we are. And it's this process, that they go through. And so people that think, well, you go over and all of a sudden you have all this enlightenment. No. You're still learning. You're still growing. You're still going through all this thing. Enlightenment comes from the superior spiritual mind, energy, intelligence, universe, God, whatever, that we all have to
part of
ourselves to and say, hey, there's something way smarter out there than me. There's something that created all of this. I get so tickled. There's this thing now. We go through fads in the paranormal, and we've always gone through fads in the paranormal.
Yep, and they repeat.
And the fad in the paranormal right now is, well, we are created by the aliens. The aliens created us, so the aliens are our God. We're made by the alien, da-da-da-da. I said, okay, fine. The aliens created us. Who created the aliens?
There you go.
There has to be an origin story for everything.
That's for sure.
Everything has a spiritual dimension, meaning purpose, background, whatever. And there has to be a creation story for that, which goes back to the spiritual realm. And it's like the government's finally admitted, okay, UFOs are real. They're physical objects. They're here. They're not ours. We can't control them, can't contain them, don't know what they are. Okay, great. But somebody had to create that intelligence, those people, that race, that species, whatever they are. There has to be a creation story for them as well. And our problem comes when we say, well, I know what it is. The Bible says, wrong. Buddhism says, wrong. Unity says, wrong. Look, we don't know. We don't have the answers in any one religion. And the problem with religion of any stripe, including in the spiritual paranormal realm, is when we get to the point where it's us versus them, you versus me, I have the answer.
Divide and conquer.
You don't believe my way, you're either separated, reborn as a jackal, you're going to hell, you're in eternal isolation, you're in eternal void. Come on, people.
Mm-hmm.
We're all here on the same planet, eating
Mm-hmm.
the same stuff and doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We all wear the same clothes. We all
Mm-hmm.
get tired and go to sleep at night the same way. We don't have the answers in any religion, philosophy, dogma, tradition, or whatever. What we have to learn to do is get past all of that
Mm-hmm.
and come and say, okay, let's try and figure out what's going on here to the good of everybody.
Mm-hmm. And it's a whole group. It's a whole, they start dividing you into sections.
Black, white,
Mm-hmm.
Indian, Arab, Chinese,
we're all connected.
American, Mexican. Let's put this thing together and figure out where the hell we're going on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, that's the thing we need to do. People say, oh, Antichrist, one more government, one more. No, keep your Mexican heritage, keep your Italian heritage, keep your American heritage, whatever.
Yep.
Keep your food, keep your tradition, keep your this, that, and the other. But just realize, hey, guess what? I'm exactly the same as you are.
Yep. My rights, your rights.
Yeah.
And every that whole coexist. It's a great bumper sticker. But you wonder what that really means, because the extremely tolerant are very intolerant if you don't agree with them. So what we have to do is realize we're all in this together.
Exactly.
The animals, the trees, the earth, especially the earth, all the elements, the spirits, you know, the nature spirits.
Exactly right.
The different dimensions and everything that's in there.
And how
the universe
we connect
and the
all
universe
this and make
the
it better for everybody. You know, and what we have to understand, and look, I'm patriotic, and I want to protect my family, and I want us to protect our country, because we have people out there that are going to attack our country. We have to defend ourselves. But wouldn't it be great if we can get past that point? Because if there's an American soldier on a battlefield and he's dying, and he goes, Mama, Mama.
Oh, honey, I got you.
There's a Russian soldier. He's dying on the battlefield.
Mama.
And he says, Mama, Mama. And there's a French soldier, and he's dying on a battlefield. He says, Mama, Mama. And there's a Chinese soldier dying on a battlefield. He says, Mama, Mama. You know, we're all the friggin' same. And we've got to get past this tribal nonsense. You know, the late Stanton Friedman said that if you were to judge how we are by how we spend our wealth as every new frontier is a place to do battle. And that's how we spend our money. And if you judge us and look at us, we're that tribal. That's how we are. That's how we look at every new frontier. Here's something that's not conquered. Let's go in and do battle. We have this marvelous new invention. How can that be adapted to our military to kill more people? And after a while, instead of becoming a self-defense issue, it becomes a money issue. The military-industrial complex. It's no longer, let's defend America. It's like, can we make 9,000 of these bombs that can destroy half the world? And in the process, can I invest in that? Can I get a piece of that company? Oh, I just made $1 million from these bombs. What else can we do? And that's what it becomes. It becomes, as Eisenhower said, the military.
Sell those bombs.
Industrial complex. Exactly. And it's true. And not to bring up my book, but I have to tell you this because you just clicked on something. I named my book, We're All Children in the Wilderness of the Afterlife. And people don't get it right away because they're not at that consciousness level. But it's basically, we're innocent and full of wonder, you know, but we are going in there like that. My mama taught me that. I said in my book, she was my greatest teacher in life and in death, because throughout the time I saw her, and as things change, as I changed and progressed, you know, she also did that. You know, it came back, and they'll only tell you little bits, because it's very much like reading the greatest mystery in the world, your life, and what's around you, and cheating and reading the last page of the book,
Right.
So, I'd love, for you to read it sometime. I'll send you a copy so you can give me your perspective. I'd love to get your perspective on
Absolutely.
it. And I know we got to let you go soon, Donnie. This went faster. You're part of the family now, John. I hope you like the surroundings.
I haven't
you're coming back.
I haven't even brought up like
I
what,
know.
in my opinion, is the craziest and most bizarre stories from both of
Ask
your
the
books.
way you earned it, my love.
Let's do it. Let's do
actually,
it.
I kind of want to save them for when you come back, because I think those chapters and those books are a podcast episode in and of themselves. So
there you go.
I want to save those for when you come back, because
and I have to tell you,
I'll tell you which chapters. It was your UFO encounters.
Oh man!
Oh wow!
Those chapters had me.
Let me tell you,
those chapters had me like.
That's a story.
Let's throw up all of John's links now, because I promise you, I say this not to everyone, and my chat knows that, but I've collected, the one thing I've been able to do is collect love and people that carry that and carry their wisdom and share that wisdom with people and try to do what we're doing tonight. And I tell them it's like my paranormal chain of hope and love. And I've got people all around this globe. There's people in here now from the UK, Australia, Scotland, Ireland. Throw it out there, guys, if you want to put where you're from. But it's all around. And I always envision it like this globe with all these little, lights going off and connecting. And that's really how the whole world can be, if we could just get people to understand. It's really that simple. We make it hard. How many wars?
We make it hard.
Wars?
Well, greed gets in the way, materialism gets in the way,
fear,
gets in the way, and that's what we have to fight against. Before we get out of here, I have to tell Don, there's all these spirits around you, Donnie, standing behind you.
Yeah, wonderful.
And so these are, if you'll just open up to that, believe that, connect with that, and trust your feelings when you're interacting with that, you've got a lot of good communication, a lot of good protection, a lot of good guidance around you there. You've got a richness of spirit beings around you. So believe in that.
Also, my dog is in the background right there.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, you can see his butt right now.
I see.
I see Donnie when I first saw him and got a little bit of information. I really felt like he was going to be very big in had a great future in the supernatural and abilities. And he was at Hoover House and at a table tipping. Yeah. And his great grandmother, I believe, came through. That was actually a Korean shaman.
Yeah.
And the last time we went, her mentor, she pushed forward. You know how spirits will do and go, no, you go, you go, and to bring awaken him to a lot of things. And I think he's got a great future for that. So it's good to hear that. I knew he had all this.
You've got to have the confidence to listen to that voice that's guiding you forward now, and don't tell yourself, I don't have the experience or the knowledge, or I don't know if I can do that. Listen to that voice that's pushing you forward and trust that, and just do it.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah. And I think that's also too, he's a great researcher. I mean, and a really good friend to do what he did. I mean, I really needed all my friends this week, and I appreciate again all the love and everything else. But I mean what I say, John, you're part of the paranormal chain of hope and love. And we often do that too. And I'll get with you on the side with your kind permission and speak to you, a little bit down the line, just you and I on the phone, if you don't mind. But what I'll usually do is if I have someone that is in trouble in that area, I usually have somebody that'll go and vet it and everything else. If it's a true problem, whatever, you tell me what you want to do. But at this point in time, there's no bullshit. It is or it isn't.
Well, Cisco, you've been talking about how I guess psychics and advanced souls need to start forming together and building links and networks and working as a team and as one collective unit, because the world needs it.
The world does. I mean, you can get a couple together.
And my podcast for a number of months now is like, hey guys, there's strength if we will band together without egos, without dogma, without tradition, without ritual. I had, and I write about this in my second book, A Knock in the Attic. We had a circle we started at my mother's house when I was young, and people would come in with the understanding that I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Christian, I'm a Scientologist, I'm a this, I'm a that, whatever. Inner peace movement was very big at the time. Francisco Cole, inner peace movement. The other, what was the other one that was so big at the time? It's kind of resurging now. But anyways, we would tell people whatever movement or belief or practice you follow that produces results for you, use that, but don't expect me to. Don't impose it upon me. And our common goal here is sending healing energy to so-and-so. Now, if you do that through Christian prayer, or if you do that through visualization, or if you do that through an inner peace movement technique, if you do that through a Buddhist technique, if you do that, whatever technique you use, that's great. You do that, but let's unite those techniques toward the common goal of healing this person. But don't ask me to have to come to your church or to come to your, believe your way or read your book. Let me do my thing. We'll all put it together, and let's put it together this way. As long as it stayed that way, we had some marvelous and fascinating results. And then when egos got in the way, when a new book came out, well, did you read so-and-so's book? We are to do this. We are to all do it this way.
You have to do what's right for you. It's like trying to fix a car and using somebody else's tools. You don't know where they all are, which one's the good one, which one's the one that slips. That's the same thing, because we're not all meant to go at this the same way. Now, I did say that, just say like power control, whether it's a king or a government or, who knows, the head guy at the office, doesn't matter. It's all about separate and divide and conquer. So when we come together as ourselves and we bring our gifts, the way we give them, the way we wrap them, we know what's in the box, we know what works for us, and we bring that. It's a beautiful thing. John is 100% correct.
Exactly.
And I had no doubt. I heard, like I said, I promise you, I heard 4 words come out of your mouth, and I turned like that, and I connected in, and I was on my way to work, so I was real quick. And I'm like, that's it. I'm sending him an email. And then I listened to the rest of it. It worked. And I'm like, I was right. I love him. And I knew, because at this point in time, you do connect with people like that. And I think a lot of people in the chat are that way. Everybody here that's a paranormal investigator goes about it the way we say, it's intent. But when you were talking about, and I know we got to let you go, but I have to, somebody's telling me, tell this story. I got to tell it real quick. At Fredericksburg, I'm a big Civil War buff. I got your history, honey. You lean on me because I got your history. You know what I'm saying? I bet you're good at math, because I'm terrible at math.
No, I'm terrible at math. I'm horrible.
Are you also?
I'd be good to balance my checkbook.
That's what I say. If I can balance my checkbook and figure out how much a grocery bill is, I'm good to go. But I didn't need all that craziness. But, this is the thing. There's a little story called The Angel of Marie's Heights. And that's my big thing. I go to battlefields and try to, do the little therapy on soldiers that are willing to listen. Most of them won't leave till your buddies go with, which I find is great. And we'll work on that, as far as. But the story is The Angel of Marie's Heights. Now, if anybody knows anything about the Battle of Fredericksburg, it was just like every war. It was absolutely horrid. And there was a high ground, a low ground, very much like Gettysburg. And there was a field in between. And, of course, everybody in between was the wounded, dead, and dying.
Right.
And they always seemed to stop at night in the Civil War. It was crazy. They'd trade, tobacco for molasses and that good Southern tobacco for coffee or whatever.
Right.
But this night, there was a rock wall that had been there, was part of a small property. And there was this young gentleman who just could not take it anymore when he was hearing the mamas and the water and the helpme's. And he gathered everybody's canteens. I'm going to cry if I say this, but here we go. Yep. He grabbed everybody's canteens, and they're all trying to talk him out of it. Don't you do it. They're going to shoot you. They're going to shoot you. He said, I don't care. I can't take it anymore. I have to live with me.
Yeah.
Listen to that. I have to live with me. He climbed that wall, and he spent hours going amongst the dead and dying, both sides. And because the other side saw him giving it to both sides and not going by uniform, they let it be. And all through the night, he gave water and comfort to the dead and dying. And that is the Angel of Marie Heights. And I think at this time, we need more angels. We need more people who do not care what the repercussions are. I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
And
we got to get out of race. We got to get out of tribe. We got to get out of nationalism. We got to get past
We're
all this
human
stuff
beings.
and say we're human beings. We got to help each other because we're all in this together. You know, we don't think we are, but if something happens in the atmosphere around the world in a couple of weeks' time, it's here to us. If something happens, there's only one ocean. A lot of people haven't ever comprehended this. Well, there's the Indian Ocean, there's the Atlantic. No, there's one big body of water that we divided into sections that don't exist. There's just this one huge body of water that surrounds the world. What happens in the ocean over there comes around to us 2 weeks later. We don't understand that, and we have got to understand that. What happens in Ukraine in the atmosphere, going to be here in a couple of weeks. Some volcanic explosion over there, not our problem. It's going to be in the atmosphere here in a couple of weeks.
And I'll tell you something else is going to be in the universe.
They do, but we're going to have itchy eyes, runny nose, a cough. What's going on? What's happening? Whatever happens in the ocean over there, it's going to be here in a couple of weeks. The big tragedy in Japan with the nuclear reactor, and they sloughed it all off in the ocean. Guess where that come? We have one ocean. That came over here in a few weeks, and it goes around and around and around.
So the debris was washing up in
it's not about tree hugging; it's about surviving. Because what you do over there is going to come over here. What we do here is going to go over there, and it goes around and around and around.
And now
this lesson.
It also affects the other dimensions in the entire universe, which is why I believe that
in a tremendous way.
Yes, and the extraterrestrials and extra-dimensional.
I predicted, and it's a matter of record that I did, not bragging, it's just a matter of record that I did. I did it for my clients, I did it for the radio shows I was on. I predicted the first major crash that we had way in advance. And when it happened, the impact was such that the other side was affected by our greed and our stupidity, our avarice, and everything that we did. And the other side actually kind of pulled back and withdrew a little bit because of what we had done here. Kind of like, God damn, people, what the fuck you doing, you know?
Exactly. People don't realize it. We always think it affects us. But you've got people in the other dimensions right now trying to come. And again, Hoover House is a good place to talk about where the spirits come over and go, well, like, we're trying to work it. People aren't listening. Some people are dumbed down so much with these frequencies and the fear frequency that they put over the TV. We could talk for hours. But all of this is, and your pineal gland and the fluoride and all this. But you've got to break through that. You got to wake up and you got to see that what you do, it's like dropping a pebble in the river. Those ripples
really
forever.
It has an effect. It has that ripple effect. And some people are going to be more affected, some people less, but there will be an effect. And we have to take that into account. We have to understand that. And we have to work with that, and we have to realize that all of our actions have consequences.
Yes. And we are accountable for our actions.
We're accountable for our actions.
You bet we are.
For our actions.
But you know, the opposite is true too, John.
Such a way is to be totally scrupulous with my clients and with my paranormal, my spiritual dealings, because I know that the guys on the other side would absolutely tear me a new one if I ever screwed up.
That's the truth.
Beyond the moral compass that I have, that I've had since I was young, I know that these guys are looking at me every second of every day.
Oh, so true.
Okay, Russell's done good so far, you know, but they're watching, and if I ever screw up, it's
even different. What you say is so true, because it even goes to the point of, here I am, I know these things. If I make the conscious choice to screw over my brother, it's even more so on me, because I knew I was going to be accountable.
You knew not to do it. You knew better.
Right. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing over there is shame. And again, people will tell you all the time, you get judged by no, you judge yourself. And you got to stand there and you get through all of that. You know, you go through and you see what you did and you see your effect. So that cashier you yelled at, and then she went home and hit her kids or got in a fight with her husband and got her to whatever it was, you are part of that chain. So if you know that, make a conscious choice to be a chain of good. Be a link in the good chain. Be a link. Drop the pebble and make good ripples.
It's the way we treat each other. It's the way we treat the earth. It's the way we treat animals. It's the way we treat trees. It's the way we treat rocks. It's the way we treat everything. And we have to.
I love you, John.
Yeah, I love you guys too.
I truly mean it, man, and I'm so glad. I hope you will be part of this family and come back.
I'll be back. Yes, give me a holler.
You have to come back because I got to pick your brain about your UFO story and your Russian bomb story.
Man,
I got questions about that story. I got questions about that story.
We will get to it next time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And this is actually a teaser for the people in the chat.
This has been fantastic. It's been a pleasure to meet you guys and be with you guys, and we will definitely do it again.
Absolutely. Yes. Tell us where to find you and anything you'd like to promote. This is your moment. Please do.
Just JohnRussel.net. JohnRussel.net. That's where I schedule my readings right now. I'm scheduling into April of next year, so pretty good. I'm always taking on new clients. You can find my books just about everywhere online. You can find out more information about them at writingwithghosts.net. I'm knockingtheattic.net, and there I be.
There you be. There you be.
Check out his books.
With us. We're so glad you.
You might think that listening to this show, we've covered a lot of the book. We covered just like 2 or 3 chapters out of like 2 books. So we haven't even started. So please check out the books because they're really good.
Let's get some bacon up here for John because you can't let him go without bacon. Is love here, John. And
we didn't even go over the crazy stories.
I appreciate everybody. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's absolutely been absolutely wonderful. Thank your dear family and your pets for giving us this time because everybody always forgets the family gives you up for a couple hours. You spend it with us. So thank you to them. Thank you to Melissa for giving us a wonderful story. And I cannot wait to talk to you. I think it's going to be one of those phone calls. But Steve Stockton's another friend who you will meet that's part of this show. And he and I talked 7 hours on the phone one time. I was barely tired. So warning. Praise.
We need to get John Russell and Steve Stockton to be friends. I feel like they would be good friends.
Oh yeah. They'd hit it off. He's an old Tennessee Appalachian boy. Just wants to tell stories and more. He's just like us. He fits right in. Everybody does. And this has been wonderful. The chat absolutely loves you. Thank you so much for coming in tonight.
Thank you guys so much.
Sorry to keep you so late, but I think we just got started. So
that's okay. We haven't even scratched the surface yet, but I'll be back.
Absolutely. Please. Everybody, Donnie, you did a fantastic job. Everybody throw up some bacon for Donnie. Look at all this bacon here, guys. And Donnie did this, and I thank you again. Please send your love and prayers out to my little friend, Mr. Dickens. He's hanging on, but that's the problem when you have a pet. You're not real sure whether you're doing it for. I'm doing everything I possibly can, but sometimes you got to let him go too. Yeah. So I'm waiting for him to tell me what he wants to do, and I'm going to keep loving him through it. And that's what I suggest for you to guys do. Love yourself through it. Love your family through it. Love the ones you don't like the most. Love them through it. Thank you guys so much. Donnie, fabulous job. Everybody, we are out of here. Keep your feet under the covers. Keep your closet door shut because there are things that go bump in the night. Love you, John. Pleased to meet you, guys. Baby.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Good night, everybody. We are out. I think we are. Yeah, we are. And here we go. Bye-bye.